mixing melodies, getting groovy, please. Waves, curves, plug me in, let the magic begin. Hear that rhythm spin, feel that jazzy grin.
All right, here we have Waves Curves Equator, and this is a resonance suppression plugin, kind of like an EQ plugin. There's going to be other curves plugins that come out, and the reason why the curves plugins are being made, the underlying philosophy is, Waves wants to create a series of plugins that make it so you never have to EQ again. You can let the plugin itself do all the heavy lifting for you and take care of, annoying frequencies, harshness, resonances, things like that. So the first one in this series is Equator. And again, it's more of a resonance suppression plugin with some tone shaping. You can favor the top end, the low end, right? And it's sort of cool that Waves is coming out with these series of plugins, maybe just to me, but if you know anything about the history of plugins, you know that Waves is actually the first company to create a plugin, at least a consumer plugin for DAW. Yeah, back then you could actually only use one instance of a plugin back in the DigiDesign sound tools and then the early Pro Tools systems. And the first plugin that was made, and again made by Waves, was an EQ. Right, so then you fast forward 30 years, and now they're making a set of plugins that make it so you never have to EQ again, right? So to me, it's sort of just an interesting thing that you go from making the first plugin, making an EQ plugin, and now 30 years later, you're saying no more EQing. EQing's done. EQing is a thing of the past because, as Waves says, and you've probably seen their promo video, that Waves knows how you EQ because most things are really EQ'd in sort of the same way. So we can really let this technology take care of stuff for us. Okay, so let's get to the plugin here. And this is a very easy to learn plugin because Waves has included tooltips for everything. So just hover over anything. It will tell you exactly what each of those controls do. All right, now as mentioned, this is a resonance suppression plugin. That basically means it can pull out annoying frequencies, muddy frequencies, harsh frequencies, and do it in a nice, smooth way that just makes your track sound better, or maybe, change the overall balance here with this tilt, make it sound either more articulate, make it sound warmer, just, really whatever you want. Just really add that final polishing touch and do it very easily here. So right now we have some drums. Just that overall threshold or how much you're removing with this center area. Press your delta here to hear what it's removing. So right there, we're pulling out some of these annoying low end frequencies that can make things kind of muddy. And I can adjust my the overall shape. Of course, I can change my type of shape here. So we got pink, warm, and flat. Change that overall shape there. Change the tilt right here. There's also a learn function. So it is a smart plugin. We'll get to that in just a second, but let's tilt that a little bit. So now the snare is coming through a little bit better. The low end is still coming through. It's just suppressing again, dynamically just when it needs to. So bypass it. Back on. Not a huge change, but the drums are definitely sounding a bit more crisp. Let's move on to some of the advanced controls here. Click that. Now we have sensitivity. Again, just look up here to see what it does if you can't figure it out for yourself. So attack and release, basic things you'll find in, any compressor. Then you have precision. So high results in sharp, detailed adjustments, or low results to affect a wider range more gently. Again, just whatever sounds best for the either track or entire mix that you're putting it on. The tilt frequency, so the center around where you're tilting here, very simple to figure out, right? Change that tilt. You have a curve smooth, that's pretty self-explanatory. You have a balance control, and we have either left, right, we have linked, we have left, right, split, and even mid side, if you prefer to it, to be applied to the mid and the side. But we'll go with just left and right, your standard stereo link. You have your overall mix of that, limiter, and auto makeup gain. So anything it's pulling out here that pulls the overall level down, that auto makeup gain will pull it back up. So you have the same amount of overall energy coming through. Okay. You also have, as you can see here, your different crossover points. Adjust those however you want, and then adjust the amount of processing per band back here in your advanced controls. Okay. So if I want to do more in this low end area and the low mids, and then not really affect the high end, just do that. Very simple. Okay. You can also access those crossovers without going to your advanced controls just by clicking that dot right there. And you have the same controls. You can also double click on your line there and add whatever nodes you want for more processing, say in a certain area, change the Q, basic EQ controls that everybody knows how to use. So if there's a particularly resonant area, I can really shape my curve here. You can put more in here if I want. And it will dynamically adjust the removal, as the song plays along. So it's kind of like a dynamic EQ and compressor kind of in one, All right. You can also trash that line, put it back to standard there. All right, so what I want to do for these drums is I just want to tilt it a bit, get that snare to pop out. Pulling out some of these lower annoying resonant frequencies, right? Bypass it. On. Tiny change, but it is pulling out some of that annoying resonant low end and letting those that high end, that snare and everything come through a little bit better. Okay. Now let's move on to the learn function and the side chain. And we're going to use the side chain and the learn function here, in this case, on this bass track here. So one thing that is very normal to do would be to side chain your drums and bass together to sort of pull and carve out areas of the bass that might clash with your drums. So we can do that very easily here. Studio One, set up your side chain. So it's track one. This track one has our drums. So we do track one there, turn on the side chain. I already have a curve there, but I'll get rid of it. I can play back. Also has a rider. So when on, the reduction amount is dynamically adjusted based on the side chain audio level. So if you have a lot of variations, you can turn that rider on and it will keep things a little bit more even. You press this button here to hear what's coming through the side chain. So that is our side chain right there. Then we'll just click learn. You let it learn the curve of the drums, and it's going to create a reverse curve to carve out our bass. All right, apply that. Very good. So you can see it's dynamically adjusting the bass in this area here. So we're going to adjust that. Just really when that kick, right? Whenever the kick's hitting, we're getting the adjustment down on the bass. So that way our drums come through a little bit better and they're not being sort of covered up or masked by the bass, right? Pulls it out dynamically. Of course, you can add more nodes in here if you really want to. You can also double click on these nodes and that bypasses them. It doesn't delete them, it just bypasses them. Trash that node. All right. So you can hear what it's pulling out. Some of that annoying resonant low end. Tilt it a bit, one way or the other. Use my sensitivity here. Very good. Everything comes through better now. If I bypass it, right, it doesn't sound as mushy. Everything sounds a little more articulate. Let's move on to another source now. So here we have a guitar. And even without doing anything, it's going to pull out some annoying frequencies for us. Annoying resonance, right? But maybe we'll learn this track here. That's good. Hit apply. So there's our curve. We can suppress based on that curve. In this case, I'll go to advanced and more processing down here, less up here. And I also want to tilt it a little bit because I don't want it to clash with the bass. Of course, I could try side chaining, but I think this will work just fine. So it sounds fine like that, but those frequencies down here are going to start clashing with the bass. So I'll turn it back on. Pull everything else back in. Much better. All right, everything is clear and articulate by pulling out those annoying resonances and frequencies that we don't need. You know, in this case, it's mostly low end and low mid, but it could be high end. It could be harshness and stuff like that as well. So here in Studio One, I can bypass all the plugins just by clicking this button. So let's bypass everything. And everything back on. It's like everything just came alive, right? Just by turning all of those plugins on. It carved a space out for everything. It unmasked that, again, you know, that masking that happens between tracks, because, you know, whenever you record different sources, they're all going to have frequencies that sort of clash, and the more tracks you have, the more it builds up. So something like this, which is really easy to set up, you're not having to use a regular EQ and try to figure out where everything is. You can, you know, use your sidechain if you want. You can learn if you want. You have plenty of controls here, but it's also really simple and quick to use. Now, some people are going to say, well, the only difference you're hearing is a volume difference. And there is a slight volume difference. So let's cover that real quick here. Right now, everything is turned on. Let's play back and see sort of the peak that we hit. All right, so the peak we're hitting was right around minus 4.67 here at the end. Let's bypass everything. So this is everything bypassed. Let's see what peak we hit. So we're getting 464. All right. So again, let's turn everything back on. See this one more time. So about 456 there. And this was 464. So very, very little difference in the overall peak, but the average will be a little bit more different. Let's focus between, say, 2 and 4 here. Turn everything on. Let's see what we get. So maybe you're averaging around -4, and then turn everything off. Yeah, then we're up to more -6. So yes, there is a slight volume difference. Now I can't show you this in real time because it'd just be too hard to do. But what I can do is this. I can bypass everything, which everything is bypassed. I can boost this here about 2 dB. That seems to be about the difference we have. So plus 2.2 overall. Everything is bypassed. I'm going to play this through, and then I'll turn everything on and play it through back at 0 down here. And then I'll compare them side by side in post, okay? Okay, so just for me listening to that test as I did it, the plugin is making a difference. Even though it is slightly louder, and being slightly louder can trick you, it is making a difference, especially in those resonant areas in that low mid, at least in this case for these tracks here. You know, I can definitely tell a difference. Without the plugins on, that bass sounds kind of woofy, especially in that low mid. The guitar sounds more articulate with everything on. The drums sound more articulate, more snare. But the kick still comes through because we're carving out a space again with that side chain for our bass. Okay. So in my opinion, it sounds better with it turned on, but hey, that's for you to decide. Let's move on to maybe something like this vocal, which has some weird resonances in it here.
Leave me a message saying we shouldn't end this today.
You hear that? So let's suppress this here.
I wish that you just call me.
Okay, without really even doing anything, if you just want to pull this down and suppress annoying resonances, you can do that and just basically move on. But we can dial it in a little bit better here.
And leave me a message saying
right there, it's pulling out this really annoying.
Shouldn't end this today.
I hate that sound.
I told you I was sorry for making
So I can really focus around this area here.
a mess and complicating your head like I did. And I wanna go back and live 1,000 lifetimes with you. And I wanna escape this moment. It gets harder without you.
Okay, I think we got it. So again, you can use this not just on individual tracks, but on your master bus, on full mixes as well, to either rebalance or fix resonant problems. So here we have an AI generated track that you heard at the beginning. Oh yeah.
In studio late night.
So if I could learn this, if I want to make some more, smaller changes.
Waves curves in my sight, crafting beats just right. Hear that rhythm spin, feel that jazzy grin.
All right, so we'll take that one there.
Vintage vibes come alive.
So you want to make sure that you're sampling or learning a part of your track where you like the overall sound, because you can apply that curve then to the rest, the rest of the overall track.
1950s jive.
Again, if you go through the manual, which by the way you can always find right there, it says that the learn is generally for more smaller overall changes where you're not drastically changing the overall tone of your track. So in this case, I probably want to change the overall tone.
Big band sound revive.
Yeah, so I'm just going to trash that. And what I want is to rebalance it here.
Making music thrive. Vintage vibes come alive now.
Same thing. Low end resonances, low mid resonances. A real problem for tons of tracks, especially once you start stacking them up. But even in full mixes, those low resonances really can take over everything and just make everything, again, sound woofy, sound wah, 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 sound like you have a cover over your entire mix. This is a really easy way to rebalance that and just pull that cover off, unmask it very easily there.
In studio late night, waves curves in my sight, crafting beats just right, making sounds take flight. Smooth notes like a breeze, highs and lows with ease, mixing melodies.
That's better.
In studio late night,
Bypass.
Waves curves in my sight, crafting beats just right, making sounds take flight. Smooth notes like a...
You hear how buried that vocal sounds? No, it doesn't sound awful. It just doesn't sound polished. And this is going to add that polish very quickly.
night.
So we'll turn it back on here.
Waves curves in my sight, crafting beats just right, making sounds take flight. Waves curves in my sight.
Yeah, it just opens right up.
Crafting beats just right, making sounds take flight. Smooth notes like a breeze, highs and lows with ease, mixing melodies, getting groovy, please.
All right.
Waves curves plug me in.
So if you want to add that little bit of polish to your individual tracks or even full mixes, you might want to check out Curves Equator. Yeah, it's not the first type of plugin like this out there, sort of a smoothing or soothing plugin. I think I've even reviewed some of them myself. But this is, again, it's really cool that Waves is doing this. Again, maybe it only matters to me because I'm interested in the history of plugins, and it's just, creating a plugin, an EQ plugin, to 30 years later saying, guess what, guys? EQing as you know it is over. with the Curves Equator and the other 2 plugins that are on the way. So if you want to pick it up for yourself, of course, head over here. Link will be in the description below. And if you have Mercury, which I happen to have Mercury, so I got it for free, which you can't get much better price than that. This is something that, again, not going to make a huge overall difference to your sound, but will give you that polish that will go from sounding more amateurish to more professional. And, again, it does it very easily. It's basically automatic. You don't even really have to change the curve if you don't want. Just change your threshold and it will open up your tracks, make them sound much, much better, much more polished, much more articulate, less annoying low-end mud or high-end annoying hiss or fizz or things like that. Get rid of all that real quickly, real easily here with Curves Equator. Once again, link in the description below if you want to go pick it up for yourself.
Waves, curves, plug me in. Let the magic begin. Hear that rhythm spin. Feel that jazzy grin. Vintage vibes come alive.